spooky friends, welcome to my channel, Kelly Does Stuff. Today we are talking all things spooky stairs. I'm going to show you 3 ways to carve stairs to add incredible spooky detail to your Halloween village display. No fancy tools or materials are required. All you need is a box cutter or 2 and Styrofoam. This is XPS Styrofoam that I get at Home Depot. This is Foamular 2, I don't even know if that's in the frame, 2 feet by 2, 2 feet by 2 feet. And you can cut this into, super easy to cut with a box cutter. You can cut it into so many different sizes to create your stairs. Okay, and so we're gonna get into how to do that. But one piece of this Styrofoam, if you don't have it, $6.97, will get you so far. Not just in terms of stairs, but in terms of all kinds of spooky accessories. So I will show you 3 techniques and then we'll flip over to my Halloween Village display to show you how I incorporated those techniques to create a variety of stairs. And stairs are just such a fantastic way to add some wonderful detail and elements to your display. It's inexpensive and it's very easy to do. Now, I said you could do this for around $13 or less, and that's assuming that you don't have any of these materials. Today, we are just going to get into that process of actually carving the Styrofoam to create the stairs. But of course, in your finished display, you're going to paint them and add some sort of detail. So I've included here the prices if you need to start from the very beginning and get all of your supplies. If you're already into village creating or crafting, chances are you have some of these materials already. And if you're using Styrofoam as your platform basis, well, you might be able to do this detail for no additional cost. All right, I think we're about to get started, but wait a minute, what? Oh, quick message from my dog, Angel. Oh, thank you, Angel, so much for reminding all of our spooky friends to consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't done so already. And if you have, thank you so very much. I love sharing all of my projects with you all, and I love learning from you, hearing your tips and tricks for a variety of different types of projects. So leave those in the comments so the rest of us can hear from you and learn your ideas. And then of course, if you have any questions about the process that I'm going to share with you today, please leave those in the comments. Let's go ahead and get into our first set of spooky stairs. For our first technique, we're gonna go into our bin of scrap Styrofoam. If you don't yet have scraps, just cut some off of your new piece of Styrofoam. Okay, this first technique is so easy. All you're doing is hot gluing smaller pieces of Styrofoam on top of each other. And you're like, are you kidding me? I came here for this? I know. But just stick with me and let's see some cool things that we can do with this very simple technique. Now, the XPS foam is 1 inch thick and you might not want your stairs to be this big. So you can cut it in half widthwise to make thinner pieces of Styrofoam for your stairs. Make sure you're working with a really sharp blade here just to make this process quick and easy. It was probably time for me to replace mine. And of course, be so careful when working with these blades. The size of your steps is really up to you. You can be very precise and measure them out if you want each step to be even. If you're doing something really spooky, you're doing some stones carved leading up to a mountain, you might want them to be uneven and more of a random pattern. It's your display and you can make them look any way that you want. And there we have it, our first set of stairs. Of course, we're not completely done with these. We would texture them, we would rough them up a little bit, but what if we want to take this same technique and make the design itself a little bit more interesting? Like, what about a staircase that has a bit of a curve to it? There are 2 ways you could do this. The first way is to glue your pieces on top of each other in a curved pattern and then continue to carve along that curve. If you feel confident with your carving skills, you can take your blade directly to your stairs and carve along that curve. If you find that you're really just cutting off the edges of your staircase and making it smaller and smaller, grab a pen and draw that curve in and then carve along your drawing. Now you'll see I got a little overzealous with my carving and lost my bottom stair there, or didn't like how small each of my steps was getting. So I just began going to the step above it, taking a little bit of that away to give that bottom step a little bit more space. Now, since these are kind of wacky, spooky, freeform stairs, that was fine. If you are really wanting each of your stairs to be even, just be careful when you're carving not to take away more than you want. I think these are some of the silliest stairs I've ever created. I'm getting like carnival vibes for this. Might have to add that to my carnival section. Now let's look at another way you can do this by looking at a set of stairs I carved last year. So instead of stacking my pieces in a curve, I stacked them directly on top of each other and then drew in the shape of the stairs that I wanted. After that, I went and carved everything outside of my guidelines. After adding texture to and painting my stairs, I ended up with these 2 curved staircases that I added to the spooky town center of my Halloween display. And now let's jump over to my Day of the Dead display to see how I utilized the stacking styrofoam method to create these really cool stairs. This might be one of my most favorite staircases that I created last year. The stacking styrofoam method allows you to create complicated and elaborate stairs or some simple stairs if you want to lead up to a ride in your creepy carnival section. Let's move on now to our next technique. For this technique, we're going to carve our stairs directly into the styrofoam platform. And for this demonstration, I decided to carve stairs for my new Limax piece, Blood on the Vine. And I wanted to add cobblestone detail to my stairs to tie in to the piece. Now you may have noticed that this foam looks a little bit different. I bought it on Amazon and I kind of made a mistake. I got 4 sheets for $24 and I misread the size. I thought they were much bigger than they are and that I was getting a deal, but definitely not. However, it's still XPS foam and it has all the versatility and options of the other foam. And this process does involve a little bit of math. So the first thing you need to do is decide how many total stairs that you want. You can see here that I was working with 3 pieces of foam and I decided I wanted a total of 6 stairs. Since I'm carving these stairs directly into the foam, I need to decide how far back the area of my stairs are going to begin. In order to determine the depth, you're going to multiply the depth of each individual stair by the total amount of stairs you are going to have, including that very top step that will be on your top piece of styrofoam. Now you don't have to do this next part, but if your brain works like mine does and wants to carve out that top step, I always measure it and draw it out on the top piece of my styrofoam so I can see it and know to begin my carving below that step. Another thing that I do just to help me see these steps better as I begin carving is outside of that area, I will mark little lines that show me the depth of each step. So that way, as I get further down into the platform, I know where to begin carving the next step. Next, we need to determine how tall each step is going to be. This foam is kind of a funky size at 0.79 inches thick. So I measured roughly halfway down the piece of styrofoam. The other XPS foam that I showed you that you get at Home Depot is 1 inch thick, so that makes measuring halfway down pretty simple. But it's up to you to decide how precise you want to be. If you want each stair to be exactly the same height, or if you want them to be varying heights. I measure, but I never care to be really precise. Now it's time to begin carving, and remember, you're going to carve below that top step. You're going to want to make sure that your blade is very sharp. That way it won't fight with the styrofoam and you'll get a nice smooth cut. And of course, go very slow, very carefully, and take your time. After you make those first initial easy cuts into the styrofoam, you'll be able to slide your blade a little bit further back. Now, if you use a box cutter like this where you can adjust the size of your blade, you can use this to your advantage. Here you can see I adjusted the blade so that it was no bigger than the height. So that way when you go to the back of the stair, you won't carve too deep and take out too much of your stair. Now you can also do the same thing with the depth. Adjust your blade so that way you're not going too far deep into the styrofoam, and you can push that blade under there because you need to separate the styrofoam to be able to pull out this step. And I think we are getting pretty close. And we have liftoff. So you can see there really what we've done is create that top stair. I'm cleaning out some of the styrofoam here, not completely necessary because we are going to carve most of that out. And remember when I talked about drawing those little lines outside of the area? Well, now I'm actually doing that because I realized I had carved them inside of the area, that square that I just took out, and I want to use those lines that indicate the depth of my stairs as I continue to go down the styrofoam. And now let's repeat the process. If it helps, go ahead and draw that stair on this part of the styrofoam so that you know where to begin carving. Always carve below the line that you draw. Since this is the second stair and final stair in this piece of styrofoam, we don't have to worry about measuring the height. We can just carve along that line and the sides and pull it out. And look at that, we have 2 steps in our staircase, and we're just going to continue this process down the styrofoam. If it helps, do what I do and draw out that 3rd step now on our 2nd piece of styrofoam, and you're going to carve out everything below that line. In order to carve this next step, I'm going to take that top piece of styrofoam off. So in order to get my size and area of where I need to be carving on that piece of styrofoam, I'm drawing the shape, tracing the sides from the top piece of styrofoam, and then also doing my guesstimate eyeballing of my height. And just like with anything that we do, the more you do it, the easier this will become and the better at it you will be. After I've taken a season off and get back to it, my brain's always like, huh? You want me to do what? But after I get a couple stairs carved, I'm like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. 4 stairs down, 2 to go. And I'm gonna go ahead and skip right to the end of what this looks like because it's just the same process, and you can do this for as many stairs as you want. Okay, you've got your stairs, and now the fun really begins. You get to decide what type of stairs you want. As I mentioned at the start of this, I wanted to do cobblestone stairs to tie in and match the Limax piece. I won't get into the full detail of carving cobblestone, but you're just going to make whatever type of design. It could be wood, it could be brick, it could be cobblestone. You could just kind of rough it up a little bit with some rock, scratch it up with some knives. This is where you get to decide how spooky, uneven, creepy you want your stairs to be. Let's see now how I use this technique in my village display from last year. I loved to do this in the area of my village that I call Trick or Treat Lane. It's kind of the nicer, friendlier part of the display. You've got some neighborhood houses, kids going trick-or-treating. Oh, here I got real fancy and combined technique 1 and 2, had stairs starting out and then going into the display. Moving on to technique 3. This is really just a build off of technique number 2. So the same strategy is going to apply. This is just going to be for even crazier, wilder, wackier stairs. And look at that, we're all done. Yep, I never hit record when I was carving these stairs. But that's okay, every oopsie is an opportunity. So I just flipped them around and thought, hey, you know what this platform needs? 2 sets of wacky stone steps. Let's get carving. As you can see, I'm carving from the corners, and I really didn't do any measurements here. I just knew that I wanted to go way deep into my top piece of styrofoam, so that way I would have lots of room to carve different layers and stone steps of varying sizes. If you find it helpful, you can always draw out the shapes that you want to be carving into the styrofoam. I typically will start out this way, and then as I get into it and get more comfortable and remember how to do this after taking a season off, I just kind of let the blade do the work, let my imagination fly and have some fun. And you can see that the same process applies here as did in technique number 2, even though our shapes are a little bit different. If you're wanting to carve out 2 steps or more into a single piece of stone, use your blade as a guide to know how far deep to go into the piece of styrofoam so you don't take out more than you want to create that particular layer. Be careful if you decide to do this. Use your blade to try to pry up the piece of styrofoam. Better yet, don't do it. Several times last year, I couldn't seem to learn my lesson and would do that. Put the blade underneath the piece of styrofoam that was still stuck and use it to pry it up. And I broke several blades, and there's no telling what direction those blades are going to go when they go flying. Make good choices. Now you can see here, I'm just carving out sections wherever I feel like it. It's totally random. I want these to kind of be some stone steps that you would find out in nature that doesn't have any particular pattern to them. Every step is a different size. Maybe it's a different shape and texture. And you really just keep carving until you're satisfied with the number of your steps and the shape of them. There's no right or wrong answer to this. It's whatever your preference is. People often ask me how long a project takes, and that's such a hard question for me to answer because while I'm eager to see the finished piece, I'm never in a rush to get it done because creating is such a meditative, joyful experience for me. So I just really get lost in the process and the hours can slip away and it feels like minutes. For this particular platform though, with stairs on both sides from beginning to end, carving all the way through detailing, painting, and accessorizing with some moss was done within a single day and not the entire day. I was able to work on other projects as well. If you want to, you can switch to a smaller blade to cut out some of the notches and ridges in your rocks or stairs or steps, whatever it is that you're creating. And here I wanted to create a tiny little cave within my steps, so I started carving at the bottom of my second layer of styrofoam. And then to make it easier, I flipped it upside down and carved some more. I wanted the cave to be a little bit deeper, so then I began carving into that third layer of styrofoam. When creating chaotic steps like this, I never go into it with a specific plan in mind, other than chaos. I just let the piece see where it wants to take me. And I then start thinking about what are the accessories or little elements that I'm going to be putting on this piece. Maybe I want a step that's going to be wide enough to hold one of my little figurines that's going to be climbing up the steps. Or maybe in this cave, there is going to be a little skeleton hiding out in a campfire, or maybe it's just going to be a pile of bones. So I kind of think about the end result as I'm carving and then just sort of let things go from there. So for this video, I really just wanted to get into the details of how you carve the stairs. But of course, if you're looking at this and want to get started on a project, you might actually want to go all the way through to the finish line. So you're going to want to know about texturizing. If you've seen my videos before, you know a great way to do this is with a rock, or you can do rolled up aluminum foil. Another option, not necessary, but you might want to do for these types of steps or any of the steps, is sand them down. You can use an old nail file or buy one at the Dollar Tree, and they also have sandpaper at the Dollar Tree. And I'm actually not sure that I've ever sanded any of my steps or stairs before, but for this I was really envisioning more of a smooth stone. However, of course, I didn't want them to be completely smooth because the texturizing is really what the paint needs in order for the different colors to pop and all the little details to come through. It helps make the stone be more realistic when you go in with that dry brushing technique. Now, unfortunately, when I went to go find photos from last year's project, I didn't really have anything good that could show you what a finished result would look like. So I went ahead and finished off these stairs that we just carved together. I painted them and added some moss and some little accessories to see how this might look for you in your final display. I put this little skeleton over here. You could have it be a nicer scene with maybe some pumpkins and a cute little animal living in that cave. You could have it be really creepy with a pile of bones or some freaky big spiders and bugs. Totally up to you. Okay, spooky friends, that's it. Those are the 3 techniques that I have for you today to carve stairs. Let's go ahead and pop over real quick and take a look at those cobblestones. I did texture and paint them, and so we could kind of get an idea of how they might be incorporated into that blood on the vine piece. Well, spooky friends, this is the first time I've done a longer tutorial like this where I go into greater detail on a specific aspect of your Halloween village. So if you have any kind feedback that you would like to share with me, if you want me to go into more detail, if some areas went into a little bit too much detail, please let me know.
And I know that's really going to vary from person to person. Everyone learns differently and has preferences on viewing styles for these types of videos, but maybe I can come somewhere in the middle. I'm definitely going to learn as I do this and get better at explaining these fun techniques to all of you. Please consider subscribing to my channel, liking this video, and sharing it with 5 or 10 spooky friends. I'll see you guys next time, and happy creating!
La 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 la. La la la. Breath. Breathe.